Ladies and gentlemen, I am on with the amazing Maddie, and we're going to talk about the flow state of consciousness today. She is a healer. She is a practitioner. She works with a lot of energy and a lot of sources with other people. And I just want to get her perspective on what the flow state of consciousness is. Maddie, what is it? Hi.
Okay, so the flow state of consciousness is the melting of action into consciousness. So a better way to explain this is when you are, let's say you're at a concert with your friends and the music is going and you're dancing and you're laughing and you're not thinking about anything. You're hearing the music and your body was moving and you're just in this state of flow. What you're experiencing is the flow state of consciousness. And how I came upon this was I started hula hooping and I started using flow props. I started out in the EDM community, going to shows and curated events, and I would get lost in music and lost in my prop, and my body would just flow with the music. There's no thoughts. The ego isn't judging. The ego isn't planning the next move. It just is. And that is what the flow state is. The flow state is when you're doing an activity and the ego dissolves and it takes a back seat.
Okay. Is it kind of like when you're working out or like you see a professional athlete at its best, they're in that flow state and they're just able to do things without actually thinking? Isn't that when your brainwaves go into like a theta mode? When you're like right between that waking state and that sleeping state, but you're actually, you can do things and your subconscious mind is kind of gearing you towards it. You don't have to think logically. Is that what you're going towards?
Energized focus.
Energized focus. Okay, got it. And what do you do? Like, do you like help people train them so they could get into this flow state?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Your mic is breaking up. Oh, sorry.
Oh, is it breaking up? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
how about now? Can you hear me better?
On mine. Yeah.
All right. So what I was saying was, do you actually like help people get into this flow state of consciousness?
Yes. So my goal is to bring awareness to the flow state of consciousness, because we don't realize that we're in this state of consciousness day to day. And just the little things that we're doing, like you said, when we're working out, when we're playing sports, when we're dancing. Where I'm at right now in my journey is I'm incorporating this flow state into everything that I do. You and I, in this conversation, we're flowing. Something that you're going to say to me is going to trigger me in this energetic exchange, this energetic focused. I'm focused here, I'm present. So my goal is to, me specifically, how I enter the flow state, and my intro to the flow state was through dance. So once we gain presence, once I finally got to a point where I realized this is an alternate state of consciousness. This is different than anything else I experienced. What comes after realizing that you're in the flow state is learning to be present in the flow state. So I bring awareness and bring attention to you in the flow state. And then I cultivate a space where we can learn to be present in the flow state. And once you're present in the flow state, you can start to expand in the state of consciousness. And for me, how this manifested was I began to put on a frequency or a song that drew inner emotions in me, that reminded me of a time, of a trauma, of a trigger. And I would turn that on and I would start to flow with my props. I would get lost in it. And what I would find is that I would surface these emotions. And in the flow state, I'm looking at these emotions from a seat of consciousness, not from a seat of ego programming. Everything that's led up to here, I'm looking at it from a multidimensional viewpoint. And this is when I began to alchemize this energy into an output of beauty, of a transmission, turning it into dance. So then the next step was using the flow state of consciousness, being present and playing with it in a way of allowing things to surface, experiencing inside of this flow state of consciousness to promote healing and wellness and release and to alchemize emotions.
That's super interesting. How are you aware that you're in that flow state? Because, I mean, I've gotten to the flow state by meditating, and you're in this state of brainwaves. But every time I'm like, okay, I'm there, and then you just get out of it. So it's a little tricky. Like, I feel like when you're deep inside, and then you just realize, hey, I'm actually here, and then boom, you're gone. How do you prevent that from happening? This is me while I'm meditating. Like, I haven't been dancing or anything like that. And I know what you're talking about because there's different religions, especially in Muslim cultures, where they do that spinning dance. And then they get into that flow state. And then apparently after hours and hours, they just fall and have this transcendental moment. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but how do you catch yourself in that flow state?
So, how to catch yourself in the flow state is just like in meditation, to practice presence. And it's the big thing. It's the work, right?
It's definitely the work.
So, yeah, it's the work. So presence. So when you start to lose yourself to the music or to lose yourself in your meditation, whatever activity it is that you're doing, when you can separate ego from consciousness, you can be present in the consciousness. So something that helps me, right? Something that I tell my clients, you're starting to get into the flow state, intrusive thoughts, right? What happens is they come, you attach, and then it sprouts other thoughts. Other things come with this thought that you've attached to. So what happens is when you realize that you're in the flow state, I'm in the flow state. Go, let it go. Be present. Categorizing thoughts from presence. You don't have to lose it. Just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean that it's gone, right? It's what we do with it and being present in the activity. And it does take practice, and it takes muscle memory, right? So you're not going to just hop into the flow state of consciousness. You're not just going to one day be like, I'm here, and then be able to alchemize all this energy and get the best benefit, because that's not how expansion works. It's little by little, right? And it's practice and it's presence.
So constantly just catching yourself when you're there and saying you appreciate it, but you don't say, okay, I got here for this reason, that reason. You just appreciate the present moment. Is that what you're trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how would that be effective for, let's just say, like an average working professional that works in a corporation? Say they get into a certain flow state while they're working and they catch themselves in there. How would they benefit them? Is it like something about the brain waves that causes you to be more optimal and more efficient, or what are your doubts?
Yeah, so the question was, you're breaking up a little bit, so I'm just gonna...
Am I? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something on my end.
It's okay.
But
I'll record it. We're good.
Okay. So the question that you asked was, if somebody's working and they find themselves in the flow state, what's that going to look like?
What is that going to look like, and how is that going to benefit them?
How it's going to benefit. Okay. So in your line of work, so when you're really good at your job and you don't have to think about what's next. So a lot of times when we have big to-do lists and big checklists, right, sometimes that can get confusing in our brain. We're constantly going to the next. We're constantly like doing this, gonna do this, moving on. we make mistakes that way, right? Because we're not completely present and focused in that moment, in that task.
I agree 100%.
Mm-hmm. So what that looks like being in the flow state is being completely present, and the ego is separated. So basically you're acting on intuition, on what you believe, what your higher self is telling you. And by being present in this and having this energy, not having to think about what's next, not having to think about what you're going to say, not wasting energy on what is this person going to say? What are they going to think about? Is this going to be good enough? I'm not good enough. I need to be better. Being in this flow state, all of that noise, all of the ego, it's gone. So you are completely present. You're completely immersed in what you're doing. So the product of that is, it's your best work. It is essentially coming from your higher self. It's a translation.
So when you're in that state, you're kind of letting go of fear, doubt, disbelief, and that way you're able to be your best possible self and be more efficient at what you do. That makes sense. Yeah.
100% raw authenticity, right? And just courage also. Courage, yes, you're dissolving fear. It's about transcending the ego. It's about honoring the human experience and taking the information, but not letting the ego, you're not operating from a place of the ego. You're operating from the place of your highest self. And once you flow into your higher self, you're in flow with the universe. You're in the universal flow.
Nice.
So then things begin to manifest for you, unfold for you, fall into place for you, synchronicities.
Not coincidences, synchronicities. Right?
Synchronicities.
Yeah, definitely. And what would be some ways that people can get into this state? I know for you it's dancing. For me, it's definitely meditating. But I've been meditating for a while, so I could drop there easily. Or when I'm swimming, and when I'm doing laps for like an hour, hour and a half, I just like fall into that flow state. What would be some other ways people can get into this flow state of consciousness?
I love this question because I get this a lot because for me, I'm so passionate about my dance and people who don't dance, they're like, well, how can I do this? And this is the seed that I want to plant, is that you're doing this every day, all the time. When you're listening to your favorite song and you're singing and it doesn't matter if it's good singing, in that moment, you don't care if it's good singing, you're belting it out at the top of your lungs. That's the flow state, right? When you are painting a picture, you're in the flow state. When you're knitting, when you're mowing the lawn, yard work, house work, man, people don't realize how often we completely get immersed in experiences. And once you start to bring attention to that and you're constantly recognizing the flow space of getting used to the state of consciousness, you can expand as big or as small as you want to. So really, any activity that you love to do or that you have a connection to.
Okay.
There are many things. The flow state isn't everything. It's just being present and being open.
Okay.
Yeah, not
right
separating the ego from consciousness. Again, yeah.
There's a lot of religious studies on this too. Like I said, right back to like Muslim cultures, they do that spinning dance where, I don't know, they have something on their head. They do this dance for hours and hours, and couples do it together, and then apparently they just fall to the floor. They just have this transcendental meditation, which is pretty much what you're describing. And they have the most profound mystical things happen to them. Yeah, it's super interesting. But you can also apply that for other aspects, right? Like I said, for work, you can be efficient at work and just realize you're in that state. Going in that state can be challenging because, and also I feel like when you catch yourself, you kind of like dissolve it. But you're saying with practice, it just works better and better.
I also want to say too, that you can learn to flow through everything in life. Conversation, you can learn to flow through conversation when you lose that seat of ego and you're just completely speaking your heart and you're speaking from a place of raw authenticity. That's a flow. When you're playing with your children, the way that you clean the house, the way that you sing with your friends, talk to your partner, all of this can be a flow, right? We can all benefit from learning to let go of the seat of ego and practice finding those moments of flow in our lives and practice being present during those and being present with the environment around us and just the people around us. I feel like in this day and age, we are so many different places at once that we don't really know how to be connected on an energetic level anymore because we're connected through so many other different avenues.
Do this. Unfortunately, there's like 50 apps on there that I'm connected to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is another thing that has taken us out of farther and farther from that flow state of consciousness because through text and...
We're talking about phones, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that can't watch, we're talking about cell phones and how smartphones specifically, how it just kind of connects all of us. But for some reason, now more than ever, people feel lonely and isolated. Even though they're connected like this, there's that human touch that's kind of gone. Right? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Well, and when we are communicating so much through the phone, we're losing that connection. We're losing the energetic connection gets lost. The body language and the eyes and the tone. There's a lot that can be said in the tone of our voices as well. So a lot of that gets lost. I just feel like as humans, our most 100% raw and authentic expression has been dulled extremely. And then once we have phones and social media and things like that, we are not putting out there what we really want to put out there. We're not presenting ourselves as we are because we are afraid of how we're going to be perceived.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I don't trust pictures online. People post their best pictures. They don't show their morning pictures when they just wake up. There's some drool on their face. They only show what they want the world to see of them. Which is not necessarily true. But back to flow state of consciousness, have you ever had any transcendental moments or like any mystical experiences while you're in this flow state?
Yes. So recently, so I've been on my awakening journey and getting in touch with my spirituality for the last 6 or so years now. But in the last year is when I started really devoting myself to my practices and to my spirituality. When I was younger, I endured a lot of abuse as a child in my household, and I just went rogue. I had a really hard time growing up. I used drugs. I used alcohol. And then once I found psychedelics, that's when I kind of got a different perspective on things. And so that's when I kind of...
I was going to ask you what caused you to get into spirituality, but I think you just answered the question. You experimented with psychedelics, and I'm guessing you saw the world a different way.
Yeah, so I started experimenting with psychedelics, right? And this is when I started seeing the world from a different seat of consciousness. And so I started taking that deeper and getting into the world of spirituality. But I wasn't serious about my practices. I was still intoxicated a lot of the times. But all of that, yeah, literally. But all of that led me to now where I am going at this at a completely different way. So now I have been doing a lot of breath work, and I have been experimenting with the flow state of consciousness. And so a really big experience that I just had with the flow state of consciousness, this is a more kind of advanced experience. This happened during a healing session with my mentor, Radha. That I'm in a mentorship program called the Bliss Program.
Nice.
And yeah, so she was guiding me through some breath work, and it was during my solar plexus initiation. And I got into the flow state, and it was a space of no thought, just breath, no thought, just breath. And I'm flowing with my breath in this universal light force, right? And all of a sudden, I see myself as a wolf. And I look around me in the circle. There are other wolves standing around me. And I'm howling, and they're all howling around me. And I'm just in this space, and I'm kind of confused, and then I let go of needing to know what was going on and continued with the flow state in this space of meditation. And the knowing came to me that these are my ancestors, and I am the leader of the pack now. I am powerful. I am here to break ancestral curses and trauma. I'm here to change the story for my lineage. I'm here to plant seeds, and my ancestors are protecting me. I am multidimensionally protected and supported, and the wolf is very loyal to its pack. And my pack is my guides, my ancestors, my lineage, and that's all inside of me. So in that moment, I got the message that I need to be loyal to myself above all, because if I can't be loyal to myself, how am I truly going to be loyal 100% to other people, to others?
What do you mean?
Show up in the world.
What do you mean loyal to yourself? Do you mean like putting your own needs before other people's? Because I used to have that problem myself. I used to help other people, and I didn't really have enough time for myself. But now I always put myself first, and then I help other people. I mean, I still help other people, but what's the point of helping everyone else if you can't help yourself?
So being loyal to yourself, standing firm in your beliefs, believing in yourself, being in love with yourself, accepting yourself, offering yourself grace. Being loyal to yourself means taking care of yourself as how you would take care of your child, your friend, your family. And all of this to segue into, you asked me if I'd had any big experience during the flow state. And I said this was an advanced experience through breath work and shamanic journeying. But consciousness is consciousness, baby. And once you leave that ego seat, it's all consciousness, right? And there are different tools that we can use. We can begin to play with this flow state of consciousness. We can begin to see it from a multidimensional viewpoint and take different seats with different tools. So what the space where I am now and the experience that I just explained was, I've been working with the flow state for 4 or 5 years. I've been working with the flow state. In the last year, I started to have a multidimensional understanding of it. But
What do you mean? What do you mean by multidimensional? Like, I want to stop you there because I don't know what you mean. What do you mean multidimensional? Is like more than one dimension, like beyond this plane and time?
yeah, so multidimensional means from an ancestral viewpoint, from a third dimensional viewpoint, which is the realms, from highest self viewpoint, from the energetic body viewpoint, there's the energetic field. So there's all these different dimensions that we don't realize because we're so locked into this one, right? We're so locked into the matrix.
Is that because we're too worried about the past and we're too worried about the future? We're not in the present moment? Would you say that? Yeah? Overlap. And you also mentioned the matrix. Ooh, okay. No, it's super interesting because I talk to a lot of scientists also, like people that are like on the other side of the spectrum that are like all into analytics and science. They're like, yeah, we live in a simulation world. So, yeah, there's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, we're all sharing the same dream.
I haven't heard that.
The dream of the planet. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all sharing the same dream.
And that's the thing, friend, is that it all flows together. Everything that we've talked about, it's all connected. All of it. It all flows together. It's all connected.
I've heard this from other people that are actually shamans and Peru. They're like, we're all consciousness, and we're all the same consciousness. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I would agree that it's consciousness is consciousness, and we're all manifestations, different manifestations of consciousness, depending on your beliefs, different manifestations of source, God, creator. We all have that universal breath. What separates us is ego programming, the body. But it all is consciousness. I said it, I say it all the time. Consciousness is consciousness, baby,
Yeah, I just feel like some people have a hard time grasping that when they're too busy, like, paying for their bills. They're in depression. They just lost their job. They're overweight, They're like, yeah, consciousness. Like, I don't need to worry about that right now. But I feel like you're in a better place in your life. Like, from what you told me earlier, you were drinking a lot, this, that, and then somehow you saw the world in a different perspective. And now you're in a much better place. So I could say you're vibrating at a higher frequency. And that way you're able to create from abundance instead of lack. So how or what would you say to those people, or how would you be able to help the people that are actually kind of stuck in that, I don't want to say lower vibration, but like not in a good place in their life?
So I experience this a lot around me in my community currently. Or I would help someone to just be comfortable to sit in the suffering. Sometimes that's the best thing that you could offer someone is your presence, or encourage and offer a safe and sacred space to sit in the suffering and to find expansion in the suffering. And this looks like different things for everyone. In the human experience, there is a lot of darkness and there's a lot of shadow. And on the other spectrum, of course, there's a lot of light, but I feel as if we haven't been taught the tools to help us expand past our suffering. So,
Amen.
What does it even mean to sit with your suffering if you don't know how to expand past the suffering? We've been taught that there's no other way other than drinking, smoking, or going to Western therapy or pills. They kind of make it seem like it's inaccessible.
I agree. Because I sit in that place too. I used to drink a lot, party, and then I slowly got into meditation. I went to a couple meditation retreats, and then I've been sober. Actually, this week is 1 year officially. No substances, no plant medicine, no marijuana, nothing. So it feels great. But I didn't have those tools growing up. And in my culture, it's totally acceptable to drink, which is a problem. It's probably worse. But yeah, like just meditation, ice baths, breathing exercises, those things I guess are tools that'll help you. But I've never been taught that. I kind of had to learn like YouTube or just learn from other people.
Mm-hmm. And so another thing too that I want to touch on, so sitting, like I said, sitting with the suffering, offering my presence and encouragement in a safe space to surface these things, but then also teaching tools to regulate the nervous system during this time of suffering, because it's gonna, we feel this in our body, right? Feel these, the bills are due, you know, we don't have food in the fridge, there's this scarcity, we feel this in our body, these outside three-dimensional things happening around us, we can feel it in our body. And so not only allowing space for someone to surface these emotions and just allow it to be, but also teaching the tools that they need to expand past the suffering.
What tools?
Teaching wellness.
For the body. Like, can you be a little more specific?
Breath
What tools would you... Breathwork? Okay. That's one. Yeah. Anything else other than breathwork? Or that's like one of the things you go to?
So shaking. Shaking is another really good...
Like just shaking your arms?
That I use.
Okay.
Literally shaking your body. So dogs do this. This is like a primitive thing, right? So if you've ever been around dogs when they're first leading each other and they're, you know what I'm saying, they're like side-eyeing each other, and then they that big shake. It releases all of that tension in their body. And so we can sit with this suffering, right? We can do different things to channel emotions. Learning to be present and really feel these emotions, not allowing anything else. We allow it to surface, and then we shake it off. You shake.
Shake it like a salt shaker?
It's such a good one, dude. I love that one. So, really, there's also too, it takes the person wanting and willing to expand past the suffering, because while I feel as if we don't have common knowledge of these tools, right? This isn't what's presented to us. It takes...
I wonder why.
It takes the want. Right, yeah.
No money be made, right? There's no money to be made if you're healthy and happy.
Yeah.
Keep buying more shit.
Yeah, and keep buying more shit.
It'll make you feel better. I'm in quotations, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who can't watch this that are listening to it, quotations, that's not true. You can change your mindset at any point. In Maddie's perspective, you can go into a flow state of consciousness. I think of it as just changing your perspective, or change. At any point, you can become happy. I've gotten like numerous highs at weddings now that I haven't even drank or smoked, and like someone near and dear to me got married, and I was super, super happy. And I was just dancing the whole night, like you were talking about. Just I felt euphoric, like literally, like rolling, but I wasn't. Actually, I was, because it's the same chemicals in my brain being released. So technically, I was rolling, but getting high off of my own supply. I like that. Yeah. Have you ever done Kundalini breath? Speaking of which.
Have I what?
Have you ever done Kundalini breath, like the breath of fire, as they say?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
She's like, yeah. Okay.
I had some really crazy experiences.
I have too. Can you share some?
Breathwork. Dude, so I have had like bodily experiences to where I was kind of scared. Like my whole body started to vibrate.
That happened.
And my hands got stuck like this.
Tetna? That's what they call it?
Yeah, Yeah, but except like my hand, there's this little bone here. I don't know. But so I'm sitting there and I'm like this. And it was during the breath of fire. And I'm like this. And my whole body is vibrating. And I'm like, I'm in the flow state, right? So I'm trying to continue to be present here. I'm like, okay, you know, like I'm just trying to be present, but at the same time, like these intrusive thoughts are like, my ego's like, this isn't okay. Like, dude, like you're gonna die.
At that point, I've heard people say just surrender. Just like whatever happens to me, happens to me. Like I'm one with source. I'm one with consciousness. That's what happened to me when once I was like completely gone. Like I was just vibing like crazy, and like my consciousness ejected somewhere else, and I knew I was somewhere else. There's these entities and stuff like that, and no drugs. This was just me in my bedroom, meditating. Yeah, so I know what you mean. My hands weren't like this, but my whole body was shaking. Like if someone walked in there without I had a seizure, but I mean I wasn't having a seizure. It was just like just extra energy.
Yeah, for a moment, like you know you're good, but like your ego, like for a moment, it's just so profound.
I think
sober.
It's like a defense mechanism. It's like a trigger. Like, oh no, don't do that. It's gonna hurt you. Because your mind's very tactical. It just wants to protect you. And you're going somewhere you've never been before, and it just wants to stop you. But then at that point, you don't have to just say, okay, whatever happens, happens. I surrender, you know. And then it just got better and better. Literally, it felt like love, like mother, son, or daughter love. It was just awesome. And then like when I got out, like I was there for like a good hour. I was like, oh my God, what happened? My head, I was like, I had to process this because I've never done anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I know what you mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the journey has been so profound and so expansive, and I'm so grateful, and I'm honestly as well grateful for this sacred conversation, and thank you for holding a space.
No, thank you.
To plant these seeds and to put this into the collective, because another thing too is you asked me, you know, what I would do for someone, you know, who is in the trenches essentially. And this might seem kind of like this might kind of seem like a loaded response as well, but doing the work yourself is doing work for the collective. Healing yourself is healing the collective. It's a collective consciousness. That person that's down on their luck, they're still part of the same consciousness, even though that the human experience is lacking. They're still connected to that consciousness. So
Gandhi. Gandhi said it best, that like if you want to change the world, start by changing yourself. So if you better yourself, other people will see that you're better and they'll start to change too. You'll cause a little domino effect.
Yeah. Planting seeds. Yeah. Examples. Practicing and also being vulnerable and sharing.
That's why we're here.
Perspective.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Sharing this transmission, sharing this perspective, planting these seeds, you know? It's all beautiful and it's all expansive.
Question. So you said this journey you've been on for 5 years. If you could go back, what would you change? Just taking a deep breath, processing the info.
If I could go back, what I would change is the level at which I was opening myself up to certain frequencies. I wasn't practicing presence, and I wasn't putting protection on myself. I wasn't protecting my energy. I was just balls to the wall, and I was so excited, and that can be a very dark place to be, a very vulnerable place to be when it's essentially, you know, like a kid, and you don't know who you can trust. It's like a child, you know, they don't understand, you know, stranger danger. You can't trust everybody. Some people have ill intentions, and you know, I still see this a lot, is people open themselves up to frequencies and to energy that is very draining and it's very dark. So I think that would be... I'm sorry, I didn't hear my...
That's cool. Yeah, we can definitely hear your dogs, but that's cute. I have dogs too, two of them.
I got Great Danes, man. It's some horses in there.
Oh, man. Ooh. So what you're saying is...
being more protective of what I'm allowing in my space, and
so
being more...
is it safe to say, like entities, like opening yourself up? Be careful. There's entities out there, or are you talking about like people, like in general?
Talking about like people in general. Okay, so let's talk about something that's going around. Okay, so energy healing, energy work. There's there's a mass awakening that's happening. You know what I'm saying?
Big time.
And it goes to as small as tarot. You know, so people will be online like, hit me up for a tarot reading. Like, so people aren't realizing that, you know, to the surface level ego, this is a small interaction. But what you're doing is you're really opening up your field, and you're letting things in and you're letting things take. So it's a give and take exchange. And so I wasn't, I was naive.
Okay. Yeah, you just weren't aware of it. I mean, yeah, I get it. Just be careful of the people you trust, and just stay in the present moment. I get it. Okay, we don't have to dive into it if you don't want to. Got it. I just want to share some experiences so other people that listen to this, you know, they don't make the same errors and they learn from you, you know, because people learn from other people. Like, you have a mentor right now. What is she teaching you? What are some cool things that she's teaching you? What did you call it, the Bliss Program?
Yeah, okay, this is exciting. Shout out to Rada. Okay, so the Bliss Program, it is a 5-month intensive. And who Rada is Rada is a spiritual awakening mentor. So she is someone, let's say you're on your awakening journey and you're ready to take it deeper and you're ready to be devoted to your practices, but you don't really know where you fit. You don't know what's in alignment with you. The world of spirituality is so vast. It's huge. And so there's a lot of things that you run into with, like I said, opening up your energy to the wrong forces, spiritual psychosis. Like, there's so many things that can happen to you when you're on your awakening journey. So what Rada does is Rada essentially walks you home to your higher self. We start out slow with chakra healings, and then we did all of my chakra initiations. And from that space, we started to go into things. In her program, I've experienced soul retrievals, rebirth, embodiment practices. So what she does is it's shamanic healing. And during our sessions, I go into a meditative state that is facilitated by her in a container that she's created for the purpose of expansion and expanding past suffering, expanding past ego, kind of like we talked about, that flow state, that state of bliss. She kind of guides you on your path to awakening and kind of helps you find for yourself what is in alignment with you.
So it's not more like what you're learning, it's more of what you're unlearning. All those bad habits, programs. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Because I feel like we're all
seeing shadows. We've worked with some past lives. I've had a lot of expansive experiences. The experience with the wolf where I got sent on the breath of fire that we talked about.
Yeah.
That was in a container with her. I've had some really powerful experiences with her. I've gone through a lot of initiations. I've received so much, and it's really helped to have a mentor to help me process all of this. But in the same sense, she's not the show. You know, it's not the Radha show. She's not God. She's not.
It's the magic show.
Magic.
Get with it.
She's yeah. She's a channel, right? And she's the tickets to the show. You know, she walks you to your seat. And you know, we bring it up. So you found me. So I'm also a flow artist and a performer. And so how you found me was I saw your podcast that you did with Josh. Shout out Prophet. Love his work. Love his message. Grateful for him and the collective right now in my community. So I saw that on my Flow Arts page. So that's what I added you on. That's where we first spoke. And I'm still going by Maddie in that space. But in my spiritual community, it's something that I'm integrating into now, was I have been initiated into the name Vera.
Vera?
And so,
With a V?
Vera.
With a V, like Victor. Okay.
Vera.
Yeah, Vera. That's my aunt's name. Yeah.
Vera, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I have a aunt named Vera. Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Is that a name you picked for yourself?
no, I was initiated into this name. So how it transpired was I did an embodiment session. And so what was chosen for me in our space was Lakshmi, the goddess Lakshmi. She is the goddess of abundance and prosperity, and that transcends wealth. This is spiritual abundance, an abundance in your health, your mental health, all of this, right? It transcends just material wealth. And then during my crown chakra initiation, it was brought in that I be initiated, that I was ready to be initiated into my new name. And that's that when I'm in my medicine woman and in my spiritual community, Vera is how I'm stepping into the collective. And ultimately, I've been integrating that into my everyday life, but it's slow going because there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm still overcoming, you know, the ego and fears of perception and how I'm being perceived, you know. So
Yeah, we all are, dude. That's a never-ending process. So, I mean, you can check it, and this is how I've learned. I've become better and better as myself. Like less and less things bother me in life. I'm not triggered so much. Whether it's getting cut off in traffic, people swearing at me, certain things. I don't watch the news anymore. That would be my way. But I mean, the ego's still there, dude. Like, I mean, I shaved right before this interview. I put gel on my hair. You know, I still want to look good. You know, that's a part of my ego. But it's true. You know, like, I mean, you know, it's true though. It is. Yeah. So I don't know if you could ever get rid of the ego, but you could definitely tame it.
we learn to dance with it. I don't want to get rid of it. I want to dance with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people talk about death of the ego, this, that. I don't ever see that happening with anyone. I mean, isn't it also there to protect you, your ego?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And the ego is a part of the human experience, right? And so without the ego, there wouldn't come any suffering. There wouldn't be any triggers. There wouldn't be anything to grow from and learn from. We came here to expand. The human experience is about growth, expansion, and learning. And so if we didn't have an ego, if there was an ego death, then we wouldn't be useful. Like there would be nothing to learn. We would have nothing to get out of life if we didn't have the ego. I don't want to not be triggered. I want to be more open to my triggers when I'm triggered, and I want to allow myself more grace, and I want to be able to expand past that suffering, and I want to get to the root of the trigger. Because if I'm getting triggered, there's an issue that I can learn from if I can be present and explore.
Definitely. Well, damn, that's good. I like that answer a lot. Whoa, that's like next level. I like it. No, that's a really good answer. That is, I mean, that's what I've been doing. Like, I mean, I would sit down and meditate and see why these things would bother me. And then like my body would start getting fidgety. And then like the more I dealt with it, after a while, I start overcoming it. It wouldn't bother me anymore. So that's just one way. But yeah, that's a great answer. I'm actually surprised. Yeah. Good. Last question. I always ask people this before we end the podcast. People are in a bad mood or in a bad place in their life. What advice would you give them?
Somebody is in a bad mood or bad.
Not a bad mood. Let's say a bad place in their life. Yeah. Like what advice? Bad place. They say they're sad, they're depressed. I don't know. They're dealing with some health issues or something's going on with them. And all they're worried about is, they're going down a bad path. What advice would you be able to give them? With all the knowledge that you've had, all the experiences.
My advice to anyone suffering is to be patient. Be patient and allow yourself grace. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with how you are reacting and responding to the things going on around you. And you're doing the best you can. So my advice would be one moment at a time. One moment, 1 second, one breath at a time. As much as you can.
Don't be rough on yourself. Like, don't be so rough on yourself.
Yeah, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't take this shit too seriously. We're fucking spinning on a damn rock out in space, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I saw a video on Instagram. They're like, this is you on planet Earth. You're like this dot. This is you on this galaxy, on this solar system. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So don't take it too personally. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
And
patience. Grace.
Last question. Is there any special projects you're working on currently as far as like spirituality or like trying to better yourself? Anything going on that you can share with us?
Yes. So right now I'm in the middle of launching a program. It's a 7-week program and it's called Interalignment. So this program is a deep dive into the main 7 energy centers. And so during the course of this program, I'm working with individuals and with an open channel of support the whole time throughout the whole process. And we are taking a look at each chakra individually. I'm teaching the functions of the chakra. I'm teaching how the chakra can manifest itself in our life when it is unbalanced. And I am providing a clearing, a healing, and an activation, as well as integration, where I am teaching you how to keep yourself in alignment, basically things that you can do to keep maintenance on your chakras, and how to diagnose an issue when it's happening. So what it looks like is I curated this program to be a safe and sacred space to surface blockages and shadows in each energy center. So I will send a worksheet that has channeled questions that are meant to induce deep thought and self-realizations. It's meant to surface those shadows, those triggers, make you think deeply into the shadow. And then what's surfaced through your worksheet, we will work through in the healing. I'll clear out all the blockage and we will do a healing on the shadow, and then we'll do an activation, and we'll do this throughout all 7 chakras. I'll teach you different exercises for each chakra, yoga poses, guided meditations, breath work, dance moves, singing. I have something for everybody's niche. And all throughout this program,
And you could
keeping a track.
And you could do this. You could do this program online. Doesn't have to be in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yeah, no.
I was just wondering. I just want to double check that. Yeah. Right on. That's what I was wondering.
So we're just
cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an intro, to your journey, and just kind of an intro into bringing yourself into alignment and learning different practices and pinpointing different energy centers in the body and how to maintenance them. And
I will
excited about
definitely
it.
leave your
It's
information.
March.
Yeah, of course. Right on. I'll definitely leave your information so people can reach out to you. Make sure you send it to me.
Thank you.
Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. Thank you very much, Maddie, for jumping on. I definitely want to learn more about the flow state of consciousness, and yeah, he taught me a few things there. Appreciate it very much. I'll definitely post your link so people could actually reach out for the program and anything else if they have any questions. Other than that, thank you for tuning in, and we'll definitely catch you next time.
Much.
Maddie,
Thank you for holding this sacred space for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Right on. Of course. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right on.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thank you. Love.